Well, if you've driven through Tulsa lately, you've probably seen a lot of signs like these popping up all over the area, along with several trees. And in conjunction with Arbor Week, we're going to visit with a gentleman who's going to tell us a little bit about the Up With Trees program. Joe, welcome to Oklahoma Gardening.
Thank you, Steve.
Now, Joe, you're the urban forester for the city of Tulsa, is that
Yes,
correct?
that's correct.
Through the Parks and Recreation Department.
Yes.
Tell us, Joe, about where we're at in Tulsa right now. What location and what's going on here as far as the older planting site?
Well, we're at a location that's right next to the Broken Arrow Expressway here in Tulsa and 31st Street. This is one of the older Up With Trees sites. It was sponsored by the CE Natco company. And it's right here in one of these by an off-ramp off the Broken Arrow Expressway.
Now these are some upright junipers here that, how long of planting would you say this is?
I think we've been here about 10 years.
10 years with this particular one. Well, Joe, tell us about the Up With Trees program. Specifically, what is a program and its involvement and purposes?
Well, what it is Up With Trees is a nonprofit volunteer group that will work with donors, be it companies, or groups that would like to do a tree planting out on a site. So they'll get together with that group, they'll go drive around town, find a site that the group likes, and then they'll have a landscape architect draw up some plans, and then we get out, and that's where I come in and helping them check the soil and make sure we get the right tree species on that site, and then help them with the planting.
Okay, now the Up With Trees program has a little logo or slogan that you wanted to tell us about too. What are you trying to do here?
Well, Up With Trees likes to be known as the group that's turning Tulsa's freeways into Tulsa's treeways.
So that's a great theme, and it's very timely this time of year too. Now, you said you talk about site selection. There's some importances there. You involve a landscape architecture, but what comes into consideration when planting trees around traffic areas like this?
Well, of course, we need to make sure that we're not causing any site restrictions, so we have to be sure to get back into the area far enough where we don't cause that. We want to stay into a clear zone, which is some regulations that we, of course, try to abide by, and make sure that we've got the trees spaced properly where they can grow their natural shape.
And of course you use many different selections of trees so you don't plant the same thing and make it look uniform all over town. Why is that important?
Well, we want to have some variety, but we also don't want to plant all the same sort of species everywhere, but we try to vary the species at each site so we have some variety in it.
Okay. And I guess, Joe, really the easiest part is the planting, because you put a little more emphasis in the maintenance. Tell us about the planting and what you're doing afterwards.
Well, after we get the planting done, then there's 3 years maintenance that is also worked into the cost of the site. So we make sure that come by and keep the trees watered during the summer, of course. We mulch them heavily. They're staked for a couple of years until they get established. We make sure that the insects, if there's any crop up, will be taken care of, and make sure that any corrective pruning might need to be done. So we keep maintenance up on these sites.
And that's very important, because just planting the tree, you put a lot of time and effort in that. You don't want to lose them after that first go around.
Well, that's right. The planting is the easy part. The maintenance is the hard part.
Okay, and a lot of people forget about the maintenance too. Yeah. So again, you're making your watering rings to hold the water, you're mulching, and just keep an eye on them for at least 3 years. Hopefully they're established by that time.
Yes.
Now, Joe, this sounds like quite an undertaking. Tell us briefly about all the people that are involved in the project.
Well, we do have quite a few people, of course, Up With Trees and their group, and then myself as the forester and what I can do to help. And then we've got a fellow at a local nursery that helps us with the tree selection, and that nursery also helps us stockpile the trees there until we can get them planted. The landscape architect, planning design group, helped with us, and the nursery is Southwood Landscape. Then we have the local misdemeanor effort that helps us with some people that have some community service to do, come out and help us do the plantings on the weekends.
And I guess they team up with your sponsors, because you try to get the sponsors to involve their people to come out and help plant too. So it's just a great community program, it sounds like.
Yes, it's good to get the sponsors involved. Some of them have a lot of employees that like to come out, even with their families, and we'll have a Saturday morning affair planting some trees.
Okay. Give us a little idea about how recent the interest has increased in this program.
Well, in recent years, of course, the environmental issues have come up and people are more involved and concerned about their environment. And part of that, a big part of that is doing tree planting, because trees do so many things for the environment and for the city. And that's what I'm so glad about, is to see more trees being planted in our city, which means we're adding to our urban forest.
Well, I think you've done a nice job of incorporating this program, and please tell everyone involved that we're really impressed with the program, because again, it sounds like it's a lot of involvement with volunteers. And Joe, it's a great example for others to follow, and we want to thank you for telling us a little bit about it and taking the time to join us on Oklahoma Gardening.
You're welcome.
Thanks again.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.